Welcome to the Pull the Chute podcast with Jeff and Jana. This is our weekly venture into the world of small to medium-sized businesses and the entrepreneurial spirit that drives success.
So our goal here is to help you grow and to be the best you can be, both in business and personally. To do that, we identify and we discuss topics that will hopefully help you as you work to build a successful business.
We also interview business owners and executives. It's our hope that you may be able to gain insight on ways to help you be a better leader and provide a better culture for your people.
Our mission here is to help you pull the chute once a week to work on your business instead of always working in your business.
So we hope you find these discussions insightful, helpful, and useful.
And thanks for your support. We hope you enjoy today's podcast.
Well, welcome everyone, as always, to the Pull the Chute podcast with Jeff and Jana. We are so excited that you are here. Jana, how are you doing? Are you staying warm out down in Nashville today?
Woo, I'm trying to. Right now, I think it's probably in the 20s, low 20s. It's cold. It's cold for us Southerners.
Yeah, that is cold for Nashville. Yeah, you know, as our listeners know, I moved back up to Chicago to be closer to my girls and my 7 grandkids, and I'm paying for it already. We've already had snow and we've already had minus 15 wind chill. It was incredibly cold the other day, but it is what it is. You know, I mean, being close to family, you know, that really is the fun part for us. So I'm excited. So we have a wonderful guest I'm excited to. Irma's been very patient with us. We had to move a few things around and we had to move her around with them. So Irma Neal, you're here with us. Thanks. Welcome to the show, Irma.
Thank you. And as you say that, I am a snowbird.
You are.
I have a place in Florida and I'm in Indiana right now. And these days I have said, let me get on a plane and get here. But then I found out that it's 30 something in Florida. So,
yeah.
Yeah. And I did the same thing. I snowbird because most of my family is here in Indianapolis. And so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Yeah, it's funny. My sister's in Tampa and they're pretty cold. And I have a good friend down closer to Fort Lauderdale. He said he woke up the other morning, it was 50. And he's like, man, I just can't even deal with that.
That is so funny.
I know, right?
My place is 20 minutes south of Tampa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
wonderful.
when it gets cold down there, if it's 50, it's cold to them. They bundled up and now I'm the same way. I've been snowbirding so long, I'm the exact same way. Freezing.
I know. We love, you know, it's funny. I love the cold. I love the snow. Probably by January or February is when I'll be, okay, I've had enough of it. You know, it's funny. We originally left because I got done with the winters in Chicago but back then it was 11 years ago and Airbnb or Vrbo were not a thing. Mm-hmm. But now they are, right? So I said to my wife, I go, well, we can move back because if I get too depressed because of the cold, we're just going to rent an Airbnb for a month and we're going someplace warm.
There you go.
That sounds good. There you go.
So Irma, do us a favor, just because you'll do a much better job than Jan or I ever would, but give us a little bit of a brief history of your background and who you are and how you got to where you're at today.
Okay. I started my career in government. I was the administrator of a human services program in Indianapolis and then got a promotion, actually was recruited to Washington, D.C. to head up their program. I've done a stint as Deputy Mayor of Indianapolis.
Oh, wow.
My work in Washington, D.C., I was fortunate enough to be recruited by IBM.
Wow.
And so that made the transition from working in government to becoming a contractor to government.
Okay.
And we built computer systems for state and local governments. And you can see in my background, you see that Arkansas and Indiana, those were states where we actually built computer systems for. And then I did not like corporate. I did not, because it's always, what have you done for me lately?
Yep.
I remember landing a huge contract, not just me, but my team, a huge contract. And it wasn't even 3 days later. It was like, okay, what's up now? And I'm thinking, I don't like this. So I left there and went to a small, actually bought with 3 friends of mine, good friends. We bought a company and made IBM our biggest contract.
Oh, nice.
And so we grew that company and then we sold it to another Fortune 500 company. And then I decided that I wanted to do my own thing. And I now own, with Kelly, who you interviewed, we
Okay.
now own Onyx Rising, and we've been doing that since 2016. And the story there is real interesting. My pastor of my church asked me to do an 8-week seminar on finance, financial literacy from the basics all the way through starting a business and investing and all that. What was interesting was that 100 people signed up, and I never lost anybody for those 8 weeks. It stayed.
Wow.
That's
And so
wonderful.
the light bulb went on. Business, somebody will pay for this.
Yeah.
So that's how we started Onyx, and we've been doing 2 lines of business, DEI and financial wellness,
Yeah.
since that time. So that's pretty much me. I thought I was going to retire, but Onyx brought me out of retirement. So
That's wonderful.
Well, I was talking to someone earlier today, and he said, most people retire because they don't like what they're doing, and so they just want to retire to get out of it. But if you like what you're doing, why retire?
Right.
exactly,
Right.
exactly.
I always laugh. My dad retired at 59 and a half because he worked for the government, hated the job, and then worked for me for the next 20 years.
That's pretty good.
So that
Yeah.
was kind of cool. And he did everything under the sun. But at one point, and of course, it was my dad. He didn't want to get paid. He was just wanted to, he was always a big, like, if I don't use my brain, I'm going to lose my brain kind of a guy.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Right. And so one time my sister, who was living in St. Louis at the time, was like, Dad, can you come down and visit? He's like, oh, no, I got to help Jeff. And she goes, you realize he's not paying you, right?
Hey, that's the best kind of labor.
I know, right?
Labor. That's the best.
Yeah, but talk about dedication, man. I was like, yeah,
Right.
that
That's
is
pretty
true.
good.
That's
That's
funny.
pretty good. Yeah.
So tell us with Onyx, what kind of clients do you deal with? Let's talk on the DEI side, if you don't mind, because that fascinates me, and I think it's funny. This is going to sound really weird, but I'm with my grandsons, and we're watching Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer the other day, and you talk about a need for DEI in a small little show, right? Because he had a glowing nose, he was different, and he couldn't play with anybody. No
Right.
reindeer games. Everyone just. I'm like, this is like the ultimate poster child
Right.
for what not DEI is not about.
You
And
hit
he's-
it on the head. You hit it on the head. And what's unfortunate about it is the label has become toxic in this environment. But when you boil it out all down, it's about inclusion. It's about everybody feeling like they have a chance, a voice,
Yep.
can contribute. And that's one of the things I really saw in IBM. There were only like 13 of us in this little group that went from 0 portfolio to 200 million in 3 years.
Wow.
And the reason was because each of us brought a different talent, and each of us was of a different nationality and race, but we centered around building a product, and it's the first time and only time in my career where I feel like I really worked in an inclusive environment where it didn't matter my color, my gender,
Right.
anybody's. It was what you actually brought to the table to contribute to the product. So it was
And
a
that's
great
what-
feeling.
Yeah, and we were just talking about that actually in the last podcast, Irma, Jeff and I, with our last person that we had as a guest. Inclusion brings so many interesting elements because everybody comes from their socioeconomic backgrounds, which are very different and rich
Exactly.
and interesting. So as long as everybody has an opportunity to contribute and speak and feel needed and respected, then the team is of course going to be stronger,
Right.
And the part that I think people miss is the end product becomes better, and in business it becomes more profitable.
Yes.
See, that's
Absolutely.
the other thing. I just don't see how anybody could be against it, but there are a lot of people who are because they don't know what it is really.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay,
That's
so
what
it's great to say we need to do this. Irma, how do you help people do this? Let's dive a little deeper. How do you go about helping companies?
Well,
to
my
leverage this?
Kelly, my partner Kelly is the expert in that. She's been doing it for 20 some years. And I think the first thing we do is identify, usually a company doesn't call us until they got a problem. That's the first thing.
That's the first. That's
There's
the first
usually-
problem, right?
Yeah, that's usually the incident. There's an incident that has some overtones of race or lack of diversity or, handicapped person, something like that, that's jumped off that they need some help. So that's the first thing. So the first thing is listening to the problem, right? And then being able to decipher, and Kelly's an expert at this, being able to target the problem and giving we call it our destined model. It's on our website, but identifying and then going through the steps to get the company to see how the problem can be solved with good communication and allowing everybody to be heard, even if it's not what you want to hear. See, that's the hardest part, is having people open enough to hear what they want to hear without what they need to hear without being defensive. And that's where the work begins.
That's
because you have to have the audience open to it. And quite frankly, I think that's the biggest roadblock to it. And you've heard it. I don't think we should be uncomfortable.
Right.
We've all heard that lately.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
don't think we need to be uncomfortable. I think it's not necessary for us to look at ourselves, So it's a difficult road, and it takes a special kind of person to work through it. Now, I'll just say when George Floyd was killed, there was a huge influx of companies wanting DEI, okay? And it was our banner year. It's the best year we ever had. Because so many companies were trying to understand and, quite frankly, check off the box that they had a diversity, equity, and inclusion program. Right now, with the current political landscape, it's just the opposite. People are pulling back. Walmart just announced the other day that they were doing away with their program. Walmart, Ford, Lowe's, all have in the last several months done away with the program in their particular company. So, it's a challenge. It's going to be a challenge next year.
That surprises me.
Me too.
Because, yeah. I would think that that would almost be required now in business and in corporations and in corporate America. I would think that it would almost be required. How sad that it's not, truly.
Well, and what we're hoping is that there is an understanding that the work is still needed and that the label does not matter. It's the work that matters. That's what we're hoping.
Yes.
You just said something that's very interesting to me, and that is because I had a conversation with a friend recently, and she said, look, I want to work with people that do DEI, but we can't call it that anymore.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
She says, I gotta go about it in a different way because it's getting this bad connotation, which again, I don't, and maybe it's the pendulum, right? I mean, maybe we went too far on the pendulum one way, and we got to kind of find that medium space where people are a little more comfortable and accepting, maybe is the better word, with doing that. But isn't that interesting that we have to, we still want to do it, but we have to call it something that's a little less
in your face, or a little
less, or maybe a little less, like where people kind of go, ooh, I don't want that, kind of thing, right?
So let's talk about that, Irma. What do you think how did it develop into a negative kind of a label?
All politics.
Really? Okay.
I mean, and it got a whole lot of press, and you've heard it, that Kamala Harris was a DEI hire.
Yeah.
That's true.
You heard that.
We did hear that.
And it's all politics. It's in Florida, it was the governor not only labeling DEI as, quote, something we no longer need, to him going a step further and threatening the funding for any public institution who did it. We've seen that in Florida. We've seen that in Texas, that they went one level deeper and just said, not only can you not have it, you're not going to get the funding, and we're going to look at the content to make sure you're not doing DEI stuff.
Mhm.
Right. So,
But we're hopeful because, like you said, they need it. And it's such a big part of the business talent retention for businesses.
Yes, yes. Well,
We
and not only that, but I mean, just in my opinion, it's like we are living in a very diversified nation now. Like, so how are you going to, like you said, how are you going to supply workers in corporate America without being inclusive? I mean, you can't shut that term out. It's like
exactly.
there's yeah, we're kind of past that as far as that goes. Now, like you said, I wonder if it is political to where the label has, again, it connotates such a negative term that we've got to find something else. Like you said, Jeff, maybe, yeah, we got to find another term for it, but we still need it. I mean, it's part of American culture.
Exactly right. You're right. In fact, we're undergoing a rebranding right now that we're going to roll out in January. And ours is inclusion and innovation.
Yes.
Is what we're calling our offering right now.
that's great.
Mhm.
But it's a pretty scary, iffy time right now for
Yes,
for
it
those
is.
of us who's doing that
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so DEI also has a fourth letter that I've seen recently, which is belonging, right?
Right.
So
Right.
diversity, equity, inclusion, and
Equity, inclusion, and
belonging.
belonging.
Right.
And to me, it's like, that's what we should be talking about.
Right.
So that
Exactly.
belonging, right?
Right.
It's what you started off saying. It's like, people want to be able to be able to voice their opinion and belong to something. Like,
Right.
when you said the 13 people that work together, you belonged together. You belonged in
Right.
all that.
And we had a common vision,
Yes.
and we're able to move toward the goal that way, Yeah.
But now, Irma, do you think it's that businesses have a lack of common vision identification? Like a lot of times they don't even know what the common vision should be in a business, like the
That much
C-suite.
is true.
Yeah, and so then when they put a team together that's diverse or that brings all of these interesting and wonderful elements to the team, if there isn't structure in that actual common goal, then it is hard for a team to, yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, I think it's crazy.
It's exactly what you said. It said, and that's what we start with teaching, that you have to have a common vision and the willingness to listen to all of the voices as you go through reaching that vision. So it does start there, A lot of times, like I said, the company wants to start with the incident, the
Right.
thing that blew up. But you have to start at why, who, when, is there a history? Are there
Yes.
certain drivers or people or something that's causing the problem? And it does start with the leadership. It really starts with a commitment from the leadership.
So you do two things, and I'm going to shift this a little bit just because I want to hear a little more, but you do financial and DEI stuff. How
Right.
did those two get paired? Because they're
We get that all the time. We
Yeah.
get it all the time. We started out as a financial literacy coaching business. And then, of course, 2020 changed everybody. We were doing
Sure.
individual coaching, then we went to group coaching and that. And the reason they go together is because they're both about change management. In order to be financially successful, you have to have a change in your mindset and a change in your behavior. And with DEI, it's the same thing. It's about behavioral change. So they both come together around this change management that we teach.
Well, that's
Makes
great.
sense?
It does. And so is there a particular, and I'm going to throw this out because I just talked to a woman recently who really wants to launch into the Hispanic people, women Hispanic, primarily because there's a lack of financial understanding in that group.
Exactly.
Yet they kind of run the roost, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And so they're trying to introduce all this financial coaching and planning and all that stuff. Do you find there's a certain culture that is more needy than others? And are you focusing on that? And
We
how's
are
that working?
focusing on that. We're focusing on, of course, being an African American, we're focusing on African American and Hispanic people. And the reason is because in the African American community, we were never taught about money. I wasn't taught about money. The way I
Interesting.
learned about it was by seeing how badly my parents did it with
Yeah.
8 children and limited income. So that's who we target, and that's who we've been helping. What we found is, even though there's information everywhere on the internet, all over about basic financial literacy, like about budgeting, savings, emergency fund, all of that, people just don't get it that way. They
Mhm.
just and again, it's because there's got to be a connection to your mindset, to what you think about money.
Exactly what I was just going to ask you, right?
Yeah, you got to think of, and that's where the dots don't connect for a lot of people.
And do you think it's because, again, like any of us, we could read a bazillion books, and you know what? If we don't apply it,
Exactly.
what good is it anyway? Right?
Exactly.
We
Exactly.
know we should be doing it, but
Exactly, you hit it. We know what we should be doing. We know we should do it, but it just isn't clicking for us. And that's when we started thinking, okay, we've got to teach this mindset part of it. We got to let people know that we start off with a money mindset myth busting exercise,
Oh, that's
where
great.
we just look at what people really believe is true about money.
Mhm.
And that's really revealed. Do they have a scarcity mindset, which means I gotta hoard it? I don't have enough. I'll never have enough. Or do they have abundance mindset? I can get more. I can do more. That all enters into how you manage your own finances and how you succeed or not.
mm. So do you teach them the whole do you want it or do you need it piece?
We do, yes, we do wants versus needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we have one particular part that we get a lot of feedback on. We call it image versus reality. And that's where we're using, people can build any kind of image they want on social media.
Mhm.
And you and I, all of us on the call know that most of it's false.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yep. That's so true.
Yeah, so we start with having them look at their image versus reality. Is their wallet really as full as they want everybody else to believe it is?
Yeah, right. And
Yeah,
so
right.
what is the process? I mean, are you doing groups still? Are you doing individuals? Are you doing both? And how long does the process normally take? What's your deal?
We're doing groups, just groups. And we have developed a product we call Money Matters Boot Camp that's a 3-part series that's 60 to 90 minutes each session. And it is, of course, we start with image versus reality.
Mhm.
Then we go into the mindset and budgeting. We give tips about how to stay with the budget. Again, that's real central. It's connected to your mindset, whether or not you can stay with the process. So the second session is budgeting, finance, emergency fund, that kind of thing. The third one is let's talk about credit, and it talks about what the credit score really means. Do you know what it means? Everybody, when we have a class, we had a class recently of close to 100, over 100 people,
Wow.
200 people signed up for it. But anyway, you raise your hand, and 95% of the room knows what their credit score is, right? You guys know what your credit score is?
I absolutely do. I always do.
Right. Everybody knows. But then when you ask the next question, do you know what it means?
All the hands go down.
All the They don't know it. Do you know how to use it and when it's necessary?
Mhm.
You don't need to check it every day. You know what I'm saying? So it's the follow-up questions that get to the crux of the problem, right?
So talking about money, talking about finances, your personal finances is uncomfortable,
Yes.
and most people either dodge it or talk more, like you said earlier, what's really in their, they won't talk about what's really in their wallet. They'll talk
Yes.
about what they'd hope would be in their wallet.
Yeah.
How do you get around that?
Well, we're on a focus now to ask employers to include financial literacy as a part of their benefits package.
That's
Wow.
And
awesome.
the reason we're doing that is because, first of all, if an individual is in the financial straits, they can't see the value of paying for help or a coach. But the bigger issue is companies offer benefits packages like 401ks, health savings accounts, other things. But I kid you not, if I had a nickel for every time I was asked, well, what is a 401k? Why do I need it?
Your 401k would be rich, huh?
Right, right. It really would. So there's a need for companies to not just offer the package, the benefit, but to invest some time in making sure that people understand why they need it.
Yeah.
One of our recent clients was teachers, staff of teachers at a charter school. And once we finished our series, the administrator said, just an offhanded comment to Kelly and I, she said, I can't understand why more people aren't taking advantage of this 401k because we're matching that. Well, they're 401b because they're teachers, but we're matching it at so-and-so rate and stuff. And so after the session, she said that the very next day after we finished, there was a 34% increase in the number of people who signed up for 401k.
Oh, wow.
That's
Great.
the impact
Yeah.
employers can have. And a personal story for me is when I was at IBM, I got this email that said something like, we want you to be financially stable if you stay with IBM or if you leave. And so we're going to pay for you to have a certified financial advisor. We're going to pay for the first session. I took advantage of that, and I've been using the same financial advisor for the last 20 plus years. I don't
That's great.
move without him. And what it said to me about IBM, I was surprised that it created this loyalty in me for IBM because it said, okay, here's an employer who will help me beyond what I do productive for them and want me to be better, no matter whether I'm here or not, financially secure. So it had a lasting impact on me. And it really was one of those things that changed my life
That's
financially.
amazing.
So,
Yeah.
That's
I
great.
know it works. Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it. Well, Irma, thanks so much. We have to wrap things up here, but boy, what a great
Already?
business that you guys, I know, right? We've 30 minutes already. It's crazy. But that's what happens on these podcasts. We just start having these conversations and who knows where they're going to go, but that's why we love them so much.
Yeah.
They're great. So if people want to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Website is onyx, the number 2 rise.com. And we have contact information there. And we'll get right back to you.
Awesome. Awesome.
Wonderful.
Irma, thanks so much. I love your whole message about change, whether it's
Yes.
financial or DEI. I love where the new branding is going. So, let us know if we can help anything there. We just love the passion that you're bringing to this. And so thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes.
To all our listeners out there, we thank you as always for your feedback and for your interest in the show. And we continue to grow. Hey, look for an announcement actually coming up at the first of the year. Keep an eye out for those. By the time this airs, it'll probably already be happening, but we have gotten so popular that we have 2 shows a week now. So look for them on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Congratulations.
So hopefully you're following them. So until the next time, stay safe and be healthy.